My name is Don Fleming. I'm 83 years old, born February the 24th, 1928. And when I was born, it was like in the middle of the recession. We didn't have a job. So my father, to provide the family, he ran a trap line up in the mountains. And he would go up every morning, 4 and 5 in the morning, to go to the trap line. And what he would bring home, he would skin it. We would get skunks, possums, got a fox, raccoons, things of that nature. And he would take them over to his daddy's place. My father's father owned a peach basket factory in Pattonburg, New Jersey. And my mother, my grandmother, my father's mother had 13 children, all Flemings, all boys and girls. Now when my dad died, I think he was next to the last of all the family, of all the Flemings that was born, brothers and sisters. My dad died when he was 83 or 84. He died because he fell out of bed and got pneumonia up in Phillipsburg, New Jersey. He was at a home up there with my mother. But going back to when we were young, my brother Wally and I, we were really hellers. We did a lot of bad things, really bad. We had a lot of cops. A good friend of ours place, his name was Waltz, Milton Waltz. His daddy was the police chief in the town of Bloomsbury. That's where we were raised, the town of Bloomsbury. Well, 800 population. That's all it was. Everybody knew everybody. You know, it was they called it was the painting place of New Jersey. You know, pretty wild place. The women and the young girls were pretty loose at that time down there. So my brother and I, we did a lot of bad things. We would break windows up. The pencil factory was up the street from us by the railroad. And we would go up there and throw rocks and break all the windows in the pencil factory. And the cops would be coming around and chase us all through the yards. But we knew where to run, and we would go where people had clotheslines strung across, you know. So it was dark, we would do it, you know. So we would be running, but we knew where to duck, under the clothesline. And Mr. Walsh chasing us like mad. He didn't know, right? Well, it wasn't too long, he got strung up. and we'd be over on their side laughing our asses off. And he was down on the ground. He would actually go down.
He must have loved you.
Well, one of the boys, one of the kids with us was his son. His son was Milt. And so, like I say, my brother and I, we had a really good life in Bloomsbury. You know, we had, my dad had a 3-car garage. So when we were 14, 15, 16 years old, we made a ring, a fighting ring, inside my dad's garage. So all the boys in town would come over and we would fight with gloves. We had boxing gloves. But we got into some really good brawls there. You know, a lot of good fighting, a lot of broken noses, a lot of blood. But that's the way we were raised, you know. And we also, in that same place we made beer. We put beer, hops, and put it out in the sun. And I made our own beer that way. And we made iced tea the same way. My dad had a garden, and we didn't have an indoor bathroom. We had to go outside in an outhouse. And that was one of the nice things we used to do, is push over outhouses. And one time we pushed over the outhouse, and that was that same cop He was in the outhouse, and we pushed it over, and he was in it.
How old were you?
Huh?
How old were you when you did this?
15, 16, you know, like that. You know, we had nothing to do in the town but raise hell, you know, and we had a baseball team, though. One of the, we got a little older, 15 or 16. We had a baseball team. Some man, like, decided it was time for the young guys like us to do something better than do damage. So we had a baseball team, and it was a pretty good baseball team. The guys were good. I was good. Wally was pretty good. And then, about a year later, we formed a football team called the Bloomsbury Bombers. And it was nothing but a pickup team, right? So, Wally played halfback, I played in, but we were all about the same age. I was always the youngest one, Dan. I was younger than Wally. You know, I was always a year younger and 2 years younger than the rest of the guys. But I was bigger than most of the guys that was there. When I was a freshman, I was 6 feet, you know, 160, 170, 65 pounds, you know. So, from the Bloomsbury Bombers, we would play pickup teams around all over the country. All farmers, right? So, but we had
big boys, huh?
Huh?
A lot of big boys.
A lot of farmer big boys. You better believe it, right? But we had a good team, I'll tell you. And when I was a freshman in high school, I was on the varsity at that time. I made varsity as a freshman. The coaches heard about me being big, you know, as a freshman, 6 feet, 170, you know, and they said, oh boy, you know, Phillipsburg High is noted for the football, right? So they come down to the house, our house, and talk to Mom and Pop. And they would talk to Mom and Pop to make sure that I went out for football. So I did. I went out for football. I was on the freshman team, and I played. Then I made third team varsity as a freshman. But I remember when I was a true freshman, I mean, when I started out on the JVs, we had the Bloomsbury Bombers come down and play us. And I think the score was something like 60-0. The high school team freshmen beat the Bloomsbury Bombers about 60-0. I mean, they had no plays or nothing, the Bombers. They said, you know, give me the ball, I'll take it, you know, like that. But when I was a freshman, we had plays, and we were taught how to block and tackle and all that. So we killed them. And then during that same season, when the Bloomsbury Bombers were still playing, they asked me to come over, and I would go over to the game and watch them, right? So when we went over to the games to watch them, we were playing Stortsville at that time. And the score was like 0-0 or something like that. The game was almost over. So the guys on the team talked me into playing. I wasn't supposed to, being on the high school team. I played anyway, right? The first play, the quarterback threw me about a 40-yard pass. I scored a touchdown, won the game, right? And they cried foul. You know, you had a high school player playing, and you shouldn't have done it, you know. So they carried on, made a big stink about it. Not that it really mattered, you know. But anyway, I'll continue this at a later date and fill you in on some of the really good stories that I can tell you that will make your ears wiggle.
All right, we'll be back.
Goodbye.